I'm gonna give you the jump. Got the views you can use. A10 Bronc gonna give you the jump. A10 News got the views you can use. A10 gonna do it again. A10 Bronc gonna give you the jump. A10 News got the views you can use. A10 News got the views you can use. A10 Bronc gonna give you the jump.
Now I'm not the one confused. Call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now. Y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're just freaked out. Get ready for defeat now. I'm gonna make you bleed out. Listen on repeat now and weed out all the weak now. Get up.
Well, hello. Let me go ahead and finish up my shares here. Let's ask some friends to do the same for me. Then we can all sit down, shut up, and take our fucking seat because today's fucking story time. Oh, damn. Good morning, super producer Mwanda Smith, Miss Sarah, Christopher, Big Brother Kevin, my only family. Miss Teresa and Sister, whoa, brain died there. Sister Taliba. Older brother Kevin Berryhill working at Bob's Better Burger. That's fucking wonderful. I could use one of them right now, actually. And we got 21 people. You know what? That's good enough for me. So let's step into this. Earlier this week, there was supposed to be a confirmation process where Carrie Nelson, Rich Jones, Bev Biggs, and AC Dumbass were supposed to be vetted, and one of them approved to take the third ward seat after the late Councilman Quincy Murphy. Councilman Murphy's family showed up and decided to cause chaos. In the text message sent to 810 earlier this week, it was confirmed that Liddell Lewis had riled up the family. It was confirmed that she gave tacit approval for them to come in and cause chaos, to disturb the proceedings, and to harass members of the public because they felt that their family had been slighted. They felt that Quincy Murphy had been slighted. They were sitting there talking about his legacy. During the events, during a break, they surrounded Ms. Beverly Biggs' daughter, were threatening violence and encroaching on her. Ms. Beverly Biggs' daughter, feeling threatened, duly so, being surrounded by between 9 to 12 people threatening violence, pulled the only thing she could to protect herself. That was her legally owned and legally concealed firearm. After that, the meeting broke down even further. And was eventually called off. Watching the videos of this, it's clear. It is absolutely clear that Liddell Lewis had a major part in this. First off, when someone yelled, "Oh my God, they're pulling guns," Liddell Lewis, a person who is terrified of any sort of adverse reaction, didn't flinch. Candace Machot did not flinch. And Judy Priestley didn't flinch. During the meeting, there were several threats of violence, including to an elderly woman, Ms. Gladys, who was on the morning bump yesterday, telling her that she better shut up or they will beat her ass. Once chaos did erupt, one of Quincy Murphy's relatives approached Arthur Woodson. And the line, "He used to sit up there all professional," came out of her mouth. I want to remind folks what professional is and what professional isn't. Professional is task-driven, task-oriented. Professional is not being sidetracked into personal business. Professional is with your mind on the goal and nothing else. I hate to tell you, but Quincy Murphy was anything but professional. Quincy Murphy would get sidetracked. Quincy Murphy couldn't even speak. Quincy Murphy would stutter all over himself. Quincy Murphy would go into emotional outbursts and rages. Quincy Murphy also had his mind on money in any way that he could fleece the city of Flint, whether it be for a lawnmower or a couple extra bucks. That was Quincy Murphy. And to sit there and talk about a legacy that doesn't exist, that has been manufactured, is quite disappointing. They're sticking up for him, such as, he must be the best Murphy that the family has seen in generations. And I have this message to the family. If that's the best you could do, if he is the best you had, then you need to get yourselves unfucked and squared away. Because his actions were nothing to be proud of. Here we go with Miss Angela reminding us of one of the most beautiful Quincy Murphy quotes I can remember. You have to break bread. If you are going to open up a business in my ward and not break bread with me. Does that sound professional to you, ladies and gentlemen? Miss Sarah. Professional. Didn't he respond like this? I don't know too many professionals that do anything of the sort. But then, with the chaos raging, you see the administrative personnel break and flee. Rightly so. There's a call for a gun in the room. And in today's day and age, you don't know what that is going to be used for or how. No one said she pulled a gun to protect herself. No one said she is being threatened. And very few people actually rushed to her aid. These young ladies and men, I do believe there were one or two male Quincy cousins there, at least according to a Facebook post, walked in with the expressed intent of disrupting the proceedings. The exact words to Ms. Bev Biggs were, "You are not going to sit in his seat." I thought that was the third ward seat. I don't care whose ass is in what seat. That seat belongs to the ward, not to the person sitting in it. Maybe I'm just naive. I highly doubt it. Heaven angels. Liddell and Candace told the Quincy family to go and start chaos in the meeting. That is very true. I wrote to ABC 12 to clarify because they decided to mention that guns are allowed in City Hall because of a lawsuit, which is untrue. Guns were always allowed and have always been allowed inside City Hall. I'm walking testimony to this. And I'm not at all ashamed of my lawsuit. Because of that lawsuit, Ms. Beverly Biggs' daughter had a legal means to protect herself from a group of violent thugs intent on causing chaos and pain. So, let me go ahead, click this up, hit the pause button. It is paused, all right. And I shall present to you a video credit of 810 Flint. I believe most of you have seen it. However, let's watch together. It always reverts back to that. So, it was confirmed that they were going in there with targets of Councilwoman Tanya Burns and targets of Ms. Beverly Biggs. Quote, she knew I was coming for her. And Liddell was pleased with herself. Any other meeting, any other given time, if you sneeze or if you speak loudly to your neighbor at a council meeting, sharing information or adding clarification, you receive a warning. But yelling at an elderly person from across the room to shut the fuck up, that is not warning worthy. Moving around trying to incite violence, that is not warning worthy. But there's more. A direct quote from Renika Murphy. And our family ain't the one that had the gun. We ain't need one. So stop the cap. And I don't feel bad either. My uncle begged us not to come down there because he knew we would turn y'all every way but loose. But y'all don't dare play with my family dead or alive and say what y'all was doing to even make us act that way. Fuck on. Another direct quote, this time from Miss Elia Williams. We cut the fuck up at council, and they always messing with my uncle. And every time his name was brought up, they coughed, trying to be funny when calling they family up there. And we was already there. Then Beverly grandson was telling my stud cousin to come outside. And it went from there. So it wasn't just females. Interesting. But both of these two have remarked that Quincy Murphy didn't want them to come because he knew what would happen. In other words, they've talked about it before. In any legal circles, that is called premeditation. Premeditation adds another couple years to a charge. But that's not all. If we look up the dictionary term terrorism, the unlawful use of violence and intimidation especially against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. And then let's look up the legal definition of conspiracy: a secret clan or a secret plan by a group to do something unlawful or harmful. Now let's see how the law, conspiracy law definition, perfect. Conspiracy is a crime that occurs when two or more people agree to commit a criminal act or commit a lawful act in an unlawful way. So, premeditated conspiracy to commit a terroristic act using violence and intimidation and threats therein of to get a political motive or a political aim achieved, namely, to not let anyone else in Quincy Murphy's seat and to punish Ms. Beverly Biggs for daring to care enough about her community to have a criminal and a fraud removed from that third ward seat. Liddell Lewis riled them up. Why? Because she didn't want to take the chance of a 4-4 split. Or she wanted to use this as further excuse to hurt Ms. Beverly Biggs, pinning the blame on her and her daughter. The news article from ABC 12 reads, actually, let me go and look that up. That way I don't get in trouble and fact checked. ABC 12. Oh, I don't want election day results. That's old. Let's take a look here. I believe the claim, community, or it's just a search tab, my friend. The claim was that the meeting was called off once a gun was discovered. Strange. Once again, guns are allowed there, and it does not mention why that gun was discovered. But I can tell you this. From now on, anything said in and around Miss Beverly will be used against her. If her and her family are quietly speaking, there is a warning. Liddell Lewis has invited the family to come back again despite their unruly behavior. Because next time when they get in Ms. Bev's face, she's going to receive the warnings and get kicked out. No one wants to really understand or place the blame where it truly belongs. While Liddell Lewis riled them up, while Candace Machat riled them up, while Judy Priestley was at the funeral and knew what was happening and at very least was complicit or complacent. At very least. When speaking with the family, with her colleagues, and her colleagues telling them to come down there, that the people who hurt Quincy the most were down there. But now when they start attacking Ms. Bev is going to be kicked out and receive the warnings. That is not how democracy works. When you don't get your way, you don't call in thugs. I keep hearing the words on city council. This is democracy. This is not. When men and women must fear political violence just to show up and have their voices heard, that is not democracy. But I've started to take matters into my own hands. If you go to change.org/LewisOutNow, I've placed up a petition for Governor Whitmer to remove Liddell Lewis, Candace Mashot, Judy Priestley from City Council, as well as to investigate Mayor Sheldon Neely for his part, as well as campaign finance contributions, as well as failure to report, because our recalls aren't getting through. They find any excuse. Hell, any other time when there's multiple or duplicate signatures, they get rid of the duplicate and keep the original. I would like to say that the process in Flint is rigged. And if anyone would like to take up the petitions to recall Neely, I'll do my damnedest to support you from here. You just need a valid and legal Flint residence. Take the same language and submit it. There are plenty of people around that'll help you with the process. Christopher Sims brings up a good point. During all of that chaos, all of that rowdiness, only one person received a warning that entire night, and that is a person protected by the Americans with Disabilities Act, R.L. Mitchell. I hate when they pick on R.L. They don't have to yell at him. He is responsive, but for all purpose sake, review the history of R.L. at meetings. He is harmless. But they had an agenda. Not just one plan, but multiple. The first we've already discussed. To discredit and to harm Ms. Beverly Biggs. To them, a side positive would be if the gun had been used. And I'll tell you right now, I've heard many firsthand accounts of Quincy Murphy's family lifting their shirts showing firearms as well. Which plays into Liddell's hands. She was looking for violence to break out, and they already said they had targets on Tanya Burns and Ms. Beverly Biggs. She was also inciting racial rhetoric against Dennis Pfeiffer. Had any of those three been hurt, or God forbid killed, it would have worked well for Liddell Lewis, Candace Mashot, Mayor Neely. But they need a win, a political win. So now they're starting to put pressure toward the firearm lawsuit, which, once again, I'm not suing for money. I'm suing because of exactly what happened there. 1 on 12. I can tell you, being beaten to death is a very gruesome way to go. And just the fact that she pulled her firearm, she may not have been able to hit all of them had they brushed her. But who wants to be the first? Who wants to be the second? Who wants a new hole in them that God did not give them? It gave her enough time to back up, back away, and get to safety. But they want to go ahead and dismiss this now. I would like to remind everyone that laws do not prevent criminal behavior. They just codify it. And even with a firearm ban in City Hall, it would not have deterred nor stopped or prevented those ruffians, those criminals, from their behavior in there. It just would have taken a tool away from a resident. It would have made her more vulnerable to attack. And then we have people who have no fucking right discussing it. People such as Bishop Christopher Martin, a man who is so infatuated with himself that he believes he can get up in front of a crowd and speak ill of the gay community. The exact words were, he was gay when you hired him, he is gay when you fired him. You need to keep an eye on the people around you, because if you don't have a first lady, then he might have a first mister. Rich coming from a man on that side of the aisle when just a month ago, Quincy Murphy was alive, and Quincy Murphy was very well part of that community. This man, being an ancillary bishop, which is so hard to move up in the ranks of his organization, that he is willing to put his nose where it doesn't belong. And he is willing for a few dimes and nickels from Neely and to get his name on something that actually passes, to get himself some notoriety and some credit, to take a very valid, legal, and useful tool away from the people of Flint, especially in the circumstances everything is in now. Let us just take a look at a few things. A series of events Number one, it was known that the Murphy family was going to show up, show out, be violent, be loud. There was only one officer in Flint City Council. Anytime I've attended, there were no less than 2, though it's been up to 4 just sitting in the back, scrolling on their phones, ready to remove people at a moment's notice. Several outbursts were made. Not a warning, except to a man who is covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act. During the reading of the Disorderly People's Conduct and Statute, that officer conveniently disappeared and violence broke out. An order was not restored until police from the Flint Police Department, the Genesee County Sheriff's Department, Michigan State Police, and U of M cops showed up. And the Quincy family, Quincy Murphy family, was outside waiting for people. No, I'm not at all ashamed of my lawsuit because of things like this. Because men and women have decided that now is the time for political violence. I will say that there are now new plans in motion, such as to appoint Dick Jones, though I have reports that he's living around Ballinger Park, putting him in the 6th Ward squarely. He has no business in that 3rd Ward seat. But to Councilman Jarrett, Councilman Dennis, Councilwoman Tanya, and Councilwoman Jerry Winfrey Carter, I implore the 4 of you to not show up. If there is no safety and there is no peace, then there should be no quorum. You can't get anything on the agenda anyway. It must be submitted in writing and approved by the city council president. So if you were to, say, put in a resolution to remove Liddell Lewis as city council president, she could just remove it from the agenda. There is no point to you four going if you cannot actively participate in the government aside from a yes or no vote. If you're not allowed to make motions, if you're not allowed to make ordinances or resolutions, then it is absolutely imperative that you just not show up until that rule is changed. Because if there is no quorum, then things like that do not happen anymore. They get maybe 15, 20 minutes of sitting there waiting for someone, any of you four, to show up so they can go ahead and spend and throw money and cause chaos and to put men and women's lives at risk. Take a look at it. So now they'll only have a max of 20 minutes. If you four listen, and listen well, there is no reason for you to go. Because now when you are there, Liddell Lewis has already invited the family back. You have a target on you. And without any investigations, without any arrest into this incident, for the agitators and provocateurs, it has given them a sense of confidence, and they know that there is tacit, if not implicit, approval for their actions. And their actions are to target you. The council people are not safe. The residents are not safe. So, where are we at? Where are we at? We have a city in shambles. We have a city striving every day to spend every dollar humanly imaginable. Though it doesn't go back, as Dennis explained. Those ARPA funds are safe and secure in the general fund, and that's what they've been using. Though they call it ARPA funds, it is funds that originated in the ARPA budget that are now in the general fund. You don't have to spend that right now. But they feel they need to. They feel they have to. Because the second that council shifts from 4-4 to 5-4, possibly in Dennis's, Mr. Jarrett's, Tanya's, and Jerry Winfrey Carter's favor, they know that they cannot spend that money anymore in the way that they wish. They are throwing as much weight and as much chaos into the mix to be able to spend that money to give contracts to their friends. How much money went to Blight? Does the city look any better? Has anyone seen half these organizations? I haven't. Wences has been looking for the Kennedy Center cleaners for 6 months now. Still hasn't found them. This needs to be shared. Not this episode, but I'm talking about this incident, and it needs to go nationwide. People need to know that Flint is in trouble. That Flint has a corrupt mayor willing to put everyone's lives at risk to spend a few dollars to his friends. Christopher Sims, I would call individual ward meetings to hear my constituents at the very delicate time. Force a turnover and force resignations. Unfortunately, many people don't see the wrong that their council people or family are doing. Many people don't see that at all. We've seen screenshots, or at least I have, of people saying, contrary to video evidence, that it was not the Murphy family. Contrary to video evidence, that the Murphy family was not being violent and belligerent. Contrary to video evidence, that Liddell and Candace weren't allowing it. Are you kidding me? Instead of listening to your friends who obviously have a bias, instead of listening to others who have a stake in it, these videos are publicly available. You can go anywhere on YouTube, type in Flint City Council and the date that this happened, and you can see exactly what happened. You can see who was provoking and who was acting out, and you can see the reactions. We've had text messages from the family telling us what happened at the funeral. And then 810 and myself, on a very personal level, have been receiving attacks because we dare to say what we believe is right. It's quite disgusting. This comment is the absolute truth. The problem is Liddell has gaslighted and manipulated people in her community to think the four are the problem on council. I would like to remind everyone that for a long time, it was Councilman Mays that was a problem on council. I'd like to remind everyone that for the longest time, it was Tanya Burns who was the problem on council. But somehow, even with those two gone, both through suspension, but one also through death, meetings were still chaotic. Meetings were still tense. Arguments flew. There's one common thread, and it happens to sit in that second ward chair. Because every time she is missing from a meeting, you see the other members of council able to joke and talk with one another. You see council business being moved at lightning speed comparatively. But now, no one wants to see that. No one wants to be told different. Think on that. When given evidence, when given proof, people do not recant, and people do not reevaluate their views. They simply question the evidence. They question the proof, and they question the person presenting it to them. And then they attack them. Christopher Sims also nearly attacking Dennis before the meeting and inciting as well. This was all set up and planned and staged. And they have planned and staged a second one. So no. Don't show up. The only way to win is not to play their game. I know I've said Liddell Lewis, Judy Priestley, and Candace Machad quite a bit, but I still believe that majority of the blame happens to fall on the Murphy family. The reason being that we are all responsible for our own actions, regardless of your emotional state, whether you are in grieving, whether you are angry, we are responsible for ourselves. Those young ladies and young gentlemen were given an option, yes, but they're the ones that chose it. Majority of the blame still rests upon them. And until they are arrested and their motives, while are already known in public, are investigated and documented by a police agency, they are still a threat. They are still out and about. And there's only one place that all of the targets go at a given time, easily recognizable, easily known, and that is city council meetings. So just don't go. Ms. Beverly Biggs, while you are there, because you must, especially if there happens to be a quorum. If my words are not heard, I highly encourage you to surround yourself with friends and family and loved ones. None of you speak, none of you react, but build a wall around yourself and keep yourself safe. Do not speak at all, because even the slightest noise from you will get you put out of that meeting. Right now, it is my estimation that you are the best chance for changing Flint. We have an uncertain election coming up. And while I have my favorite, obviously, I'm also saying that we cannot trust the election system in Flint. There have been too many irregularities. There have been too many problems. I hate to say it, but absentee ballots, out of 8 boxes, 6 came in unsealed. When over first time it was 800, second time 900, then 2 more times, over 1,000 signatures were submitted on Liddell Lewis. Somehow she squeaked by. And then they had to hunt down exactly when the lady moved that put in the recalls on Neely. And I believe it was a very recent time that she moved away. I think she started the recalls while she was still a resident of Flint, if I'm not mistaken. And they used that very fine technicality to disqualify those. So while I believe Carol would be good for the first ward, I can't trust any election process in the city of Flint. Because I'll call it right now, Leon Elamine is going to win by 2/3 of the vote. That's not me knowing the electorate. That's me knowing the referees of the game. Mr. Sims, if Quincy's family would watch previous meetings, the 4 would throw Quincy a lifeline. They tried to empower and encourage him to independently vote and validate him, with Liddell and Mashat beat him down. Let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Mashat sat there and shit on this man constantly. And don't get me wrong, new news has come out about Quincy Murphy that has me absolutely livid. Though it is alleged he was an animal abuser. Supposed picture from his backyard with a dog with its throat ripped up from a type of chain. But leaving that aside, Candace Mashat had the audacity and the goal to call him chairwoman. I don't know if that was them being cute with each other, the same way that she was cute with Liddell the other day, saying words that I refuse to say, and in public on a hot mic and recorded at that, or if she was being snide in making a homophobic remark about Quincy Murphy. But the family doesn't see that. All the family knows is Tanya bad, Jerry bad, Dennis bad, Jonathan Jarrett bad, Beverly Biggs bad, 810 bad. They walked in there saying they had a list. You know, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders go to juvenile hall for years on end for writing a list of names. I don't see why we can't hold adults accountable to the same standard. One of my favorite people to talk to with a very beautiful mind, very clear on many things. Sister Tleva, even if all the residents come out and vote, you still have to worry about the mayor manipulating the outcome. This is very true. It is a dark time right now. I know people are saying that it wasn't a riot. I know people are saying that that's not what happened, that we don't know. I almost heard an echo from my past saying, no, you got to do your research. Except I've sat here all week and I've watched these videos. I've listened to the testimony. I watched the videos again. And I see men and women terrified, but believing that they are in City Hall, that they will be somehow protected until they were not. The cop shop connects to City Hall via the basement. And when it mattered the most, the police were not there. Thankfully, the woman who was targeted had taken precautions to protect herself without even knowing the circumstances of the night. I can't imagine what would have happened had she not. Because once they had finished either attacking or killing her with their bare fist, as they were rightly showing that they were intent on, who would be their next target? Her mother? The semi-elderly Beverly Biggs? How about Miss Gladys? How about other people I care for? While I sit here helpless and impotent in Florida. So no. Give me just a second. If you would all just take a moment out of your day to sign the petition. And if you would go ahead and share it on your socials and via SMS. Because right now, the only place we have is a higher power in government. And don't get me wrong, I do not like Gretchen Whitmer, but we can change the calculus here. Gretchen Whitmer hopes for a higher job. She hopes to be elected to a national office. And with this being a national network, we can leverage that. Regardless of where you live in the U.S., she is looking for a vote to go to a federal office. And with enough popular support behind this, she either follows through or we do what Mickey's been doing, leverage a vote. Without you listening to us and helping the city of Flint with its horrible mismanagement in government, we will not trust you with anything else anywhere else. Because in the past, it was beneficial for her to work with Neely and his ilk. But with popular support, with a plan with conviction, we can change that and make it to where working with them is more of a detriment than a benefit. Even if this succeeds, and even if she doesn't go through with it, the fact that hundreds, if hopefully not thousands, of people sign it adds weight. More weight means more media coverage. More weight means more pressure. More weight means more police coverage to protect the men and women who go to city council. Because all they got was a 2-minute blurb in local news, and it needs to be much higher. I know Councilwoman Burns has said that she will be pressing charges. I am fairly sure I know what Dennis Pfeiffer is doing, and I support it, though the man moves in silence, so I will not speak aloud upon it. But their efforts alone cannot get it done. We, the people who love Flint, people who have family there, people who have made friends there, people who have lived there or still live there, need to walk our own lane and continue to push things further. They can't do it alone, and neither can we. We must work together in our own ways. And honestly, may God have mercy on all of our souls. I don't think I've seen anything this bad in local politics ever. And I don't think I've been more afraid for several of my friends than I have at that moment since I've been a civilian. I was terrified. I was angry. First thing I wanted to do was lash out. But I am here. And thankfully, with me being here, that has given me time to think of ways to try to help. And this is one of them. So, ladies and gentlemen, I've been going for about 53 minutes, and I usually end a little bit early. I've got chores to do. It is Friday, which means I've got more work to do than normal. I do not know if there's a sister circle going on tonight. The scheduling has been a little rough, especially with Wentus's daughter's team being inconsiderate of her schedule. That's a joke. But stay tuned. I hope Carol's on today. I hope Sister Circle's on today. Talking with Tanya will happen tomorrow, I believe. And then Poll Talk on Sunday. I hope to catch you good people in the comments. Go ahead and give a like to this video if you would, please. Maybe even a share. Hell, a comment in the comments section outside the live. All these things help boost us so we can make our voices heard and try to bring more attention to Flint. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Have a great weekend. Spend some time with the family. Love the ones that need love on, and you get to relax a little bit. Chris, no, they don't. Like I said, when presented evidence and proof, they will attack the proof or they will attack the person submitting it. Anyway, guys, I'll catch you next time.